Gerald Poor, and your title as the President of Retirees. So, we ready to go?
We're good.
All right. If you could say and spell your name.
My name is Gerald Poor, and Gerald Poor.
And can you repeat your name and mention your title by? My name is.
My name is Gerald Poor, and I'm presently chairman of the retiree chapter of Local 287 of the UAW.
How many years did you work out at BorgWarner, Gerald?
I spent 41 years and 8 months at the BorgWarner plant. Retired in June the 1st of 1999.
Can you talk a little bit about how you hired in? Or?
I hired in October of 1957, and didn't work very long because at that time I was 18 years old, and the draft was catching up with me. And so in high school I joined the Naval Reserve, and so out of that when I was 16 years old, I joined the reserves, and with my parents' consent. And so I did luck out by hiring in at BorgWarner in October, and then I got drafted in November. And so out of that, at the present time, I had got 3 paychecks from BorgWarner before I left to go to service, and I took my training in up in Michigan at the Naval Training Center, and then I went to, from there I was assigned to Commissar on 3 at active duty, and Commissar on 3 was, we supplied all the supplies for the Far East, and so we were stationed in Sasebo, Japan. So I spent the next 2 years in the reserves after my training at Black Lake, or not Black, yeah. But out of that I went to San Francisco and then on to Sasebo, Japan, where I met my ship there. And it was a USS Hector, and it was a repair ship. We repaired some of the ships that needed taken attention by the repair. So that's what we basically done the 2 years I was active in Japan. And I stayed over there the full 2 years. And then I came back to BorgWarner. They had lost all my identification during that period of time. And lo and behold, my mother had saved a pay stub that showed that I worked at BorgWarner. And then I got that and went back to the selective service system then and showed them that I had previously worked at BorgWarner. And I said BorgWarner had denied my employment when I got out of service, and so they said they'd take care of it. Well, about a week went by, and out of that, BorgWarner called me and told me that I was going to be reemployed, that at the time I'd be laid off. And so I think 3 weeks later, they called me back to work, back to BorgWarner. So I went back to work, I think it was November of 1959. And so out of that, the first 15 years I'd worked at BorgWarner, we were known for laying everybody off. When the work was there, we worked. When it wasn't, we were unemployed. And so it took me 15 years roughly to work a full year at BorgWarner at the time. And so anyway, I enjoyed working there. It's been a good place to make a living. And I was asked by the president to take this job here when we had the death of one of our retirees. And this was back in 2005. And so I've been chairing these meetings since, and can't get nobody to replace me. And then we were, as being chairman, BorgWarner decided in 2006 to try to take away the retirees' insurance. And so I put a picket line up outside BorgWarner. And anyway, the news media was down there from different channels down from Indianapolis, and we were captured on films of walking picket line, and and had signs out there that that BorgWarner wasn't treating us right because we thought we had guaranteed insurance the rest of our life. And so we're still in court. We're litigating that. We had been to court in Indiana last January. The judge ruled that the company didn't have a right to change, amend, or delete our insurance because we had a contract that didn't expire until April 24th of 2009. And so anyway, the BorgWarner paid us back our money that they owed us because we had to pay a premium for our insurance and our prescription coverage, and so they returned all the money to us now. And so out of that, we're back in court. After the judge ruled and they give us money back, then they turned around and sued us again to take it away from us, our insurance again. And so anyway, then we had people living out of the state, and the UAW has filed a lawsuit out of Michigan, which is a different circuit court. And so they're trying to see that we get a fair shake, from one of the federal judges that we do have lifetime benefits. So that's where we're at in this case, and it's kind of interesting on my part because being chairman, I thought, well, I'll resign. Well, when I resigned, BorgWarner added 18 more names to the list, and how they come up with those names, we have no idea. But out of that, some of them are good friends of mine that I've worked with over the years, and so we're still hanging in there and waiting for the judge to rule. The hearing in Indianapolis, we don't know when that may take place or may not take place. I understand the federal judge in Michigan has said that we may have a hearing on June the 24th. So I'm looking forward to see what happens in Michigan, where the judge will dismiss the case up there and bring it back to Indiana, or the judge here in Indiana will forward it up to Michigan. So got my fingers crossed. The UAW is located in Detroit, Michigan. Most of our things is the board of directors and all that work out of Michigan. So we're saying that we should go to court in Michigan. And so that's where we're at the present date, and I got my fingers crossed for us retirees. We have roughly 2,062 retirees. And out of that, 850 something of us is involved in this lawsuit. The previous ones that's not involved in it retired before October of 1989. And so when they signed up to retire, they had it spelled out in their contract, the paper they signed, that they had lifetime benefits. And so after we went on strike in '89, the company said that they eliminated that, I guess. And so out of that, that's why we're involved in this litigation.
Back to happier times. Presumably, what kind of jobs did you do while at BorgWarner? What kind of machines did you work
I was a
on?
machine operator. When I first went there, I was on labor. When I hired in 1957, you had to be 21 years old to operate a machine. So out of that, they put me on labor. And I run around the plant pushing an old buggy, and I dumped trash cans in it, and I took it down to the furnace, and had the furnace operator throw all the trash into the incinerator to burn it. And so that was my job when I first went there. Then when I came back out of service, they assigned me to a machine, and so I was an operator. I cut bar stock they'd cut off, and drill holes in the center of it, and we made gears. I formed the gear. I didn't cut the teeth on it, I just formed the gear, what they call an Acme machine, which had 8 spindles on it, and you cut 4 one way and then turn them over and cut them the other way and put new parts on it. So that's basically what I done until I think it's 1986. I put an upgrade in and told them I wanted to be an inspector. And so I went on inspection then. They accepted my application and put me in inspection, and I was known as a tool and gauge operator then. And so I inspected parts and things that the company had purchased to make sure they were at blueprint specification, and also inspected parts that the operators had produced to make sure they were in blueprint specification. So that's what basically I done until I retired. So.
Can you describe what you meant by upgrade?
Well,
real quick here, sorry.
Okay.
You're doing a great job. What's happening is we need a pause between him asking you a question
Okay.
and you answering, because we have 2 voices overlaying, and we need that separation because he's not going to be in this at all.
Oh, okay.
So what we're going to end up hearing in the end is just you.
Mm.
So what we want to try and do is, if he asks you a
Okay.
question, just give a pause.
Okay. All right.
What I go for there? Okay, the upgrade process. Is that part of that union hierarchy? You just kind of worked your way up and you put your name in for an upgrade? How did that work?
The company had posted on the bulletin board the job openings, that they were taking applications for job openings, and so if you were assigned a job, you had a right to promote. And so we call that an upgrade, where you was upgrading to another position, but it was really, you were trying to change positions by getting a promotion or going to a different occupation. We had several occupations out there that over the years that you could up or promote to. If they put them on the bulletin board, then usually the oldest seniority person on the list would get an opportunity to do the job first.
Now you mentioned in 1959 that you came in back and you were immediately laid off. Can you describe, were there other layoffs throughout your time at BorgWarner? Can you describe what you did to get by, or the layoff process?
Well, in 1959, when I came back out of service and was laid off, I went to the employment office, and at that time I drawed $24 a week unemployment. And so the employment office sent me to a furniture factory uptown, or they sold furniture, Banner Whitehill. And it was a big building, and I went inside, and they were going to offer me $28 a week, and I'd have to spend 60 hours working instead of 40. And so I went back to the employment office and told them that, that I was drawing 24 unemployment and they only wanted to give me $28. Do I have to accept this job? And they told me no. So I didn't accept that job. And then I worked, I had a friend of mine, his father-in-law was a contractor and built homes. And so anyway, I worked for him for a while, to make ends meet and pay my bills. And so every time I'd get laid off, I'd call him up and he'd say, well, come back to work. So I was very fortunate, to cherish his friendship over the years that provided me an opportunity to go to work for him and build homes and it got me by.
Did you grow up in Muncie, Gerald?
Pardon?
Did you grow up in Muncie?
No, I was born in Newcastle, Indiana, and went to school in Middletown, Indiana, which is in Henry County. And I came back, I moved over here when I came back out of service in 1959 to Muncie. BorgWarner was hard, you know. I come back to work here, and I live with my grandmother over on 24th Street here in Muncie.
So even in Newcastle, did you know of BorgWarner? Was it a known company? Did people want to work there?
Well, my father worked at BorgWarner. My father went to work there in 1947, and he retired in 1988. And so, you know, that's at the time, BorgWarner's contracts read that they could hire sons and daughters, and that was provided in the contract. They had to, they were hired first. And so anyway, that's how I got an opportunity to go to work at BorgWarner.
And what role, when you moved here, did you feel like BorgWarner played within the Muncie community?
Well, they had, BorgWarner to me has been an asset for the city of Muncie because we had blood banks out there to provide blood for the hospital. At the time, the nurses from Ball would come out there and draw blood from employees, and they would give you time off from work, you know, to provide things for the community. The United Way program here in Delaware County would, we could sign up for payroll deduction and provide, you know, money available for United Way to help the community out here. And BorgWarner, to me, was like Ball Brothers. You know, they had done a lot for the community and paid the big tax roll that helped Delaware County out and the city of Muncie.
Now, you as a worker, did you feel a special status being a BorgWarner worker?
No, I don't feel I don't feel that way. I think all of us had opportunities, you know, that were available to us, and you know, none of us were better than each other. We were we were all a group of employees that you know, tried to get along and do the best we could and try to help our community out as much as possible, probably.
Do you think the community recognized how much BorgWarner and the employees there did for the community?
I think so, over the years.
Now, I know you're very involved in the union. It's kind of a broad question, but what role did the union play in your life, both at work and at home? How did it help you?
The union over the years has been a blessing to me. It had given me an opportunity to be able to travel throughout the country, and we had what we call the Community Action Program, or CAP councils, but it's Community Action Program set up by the UAW. And so I was very involved in that over the years, and I was one of the chairmen of the CAP council here in Delaware County. And then I got elected as a district chairman, which took in the 2nd district at the time. And Phil Sharp was our congressman back then. And so, you know, I was very active. Each year we would go to Washington, D.C. and lobby up there for the UAW legislation. I had an opportunity to do that. I ran for the UAW conventions, and been very blessed, you know, that my wife and I had an opportunity to go to various ones across the country. And so the UAW has been instrumental in helping me. We had been to 6 national Democrat national conventions, and so they provided me with money to help me, you know, pay the expenses. And so they have been very good to me over the years, and this is one way that I could pay back by being chairman of a retiree chapter, to show my appreciation to the UAW by being chairman of, you know, our retiree chapter. So, what is sad to me, our plant shut down, and we no longer have active employees. The only thing we have is retirees. And so, like I said, we have 2,062, I think it was the last count I had. And so there has been some deaths occurred here within the last 2 or 3 months, which takes that down further. And so in time, there will be no active 287 retiree chapter. So I don't know when that'll be, but that will happen, if they don't start up a UAW plant here and transfer our title of 287 to another factory or something here in Muncie someday. May or may not happen, I don't know.
Now, you as a union representative, are there any success stories? How effective do you think you were at representing the workers? Are there success stories you'd like to talk about, things you might have done differently?
Well, I most of the time I was a union steward, and we had at one time we had 30-something zones. I think 32 zones out there, and we had we had Plant 1, which is uptown on Seymour Street, Plant 1 and Plant 2, and Plant 3, which was out here on 32. And then we had all the union stewards we had to run each year to get elected in your zone, and so I was very fortunate to be elected. I don't know what year I ran. 1964, I think it was my first opportunity to get elected as a union representative, and I was a union steward up at Plant 1, where I run the Acmes, and like I said, I cut gears, with that operation, and so I represented 50-something people, I think, the first time I got elected, and then I was at several years. And then we moved out on the highway, shut Plant 1 and Plant 2 down, sold that to the city for $1, BorgWarner did, and then we moved out on the highway, and I was out there till I retired, like I said, in June 1st, 1999. So I've served, I was on the negotiating committee back in 1970, 77, I think, 76, 77, and served 2 years on that. And but the rest of the time I was a union representative as a union steward. I was chairman of the steward body, and so most of the time that's what I accepted that role, and provided the stewards with the knowledge I had gained over the years to help them keep BorgWarner in terms of the contract that we negotiated between the two parties. And so that was my role as chairman, and I had to chair meetings that we had each month. We meet the second Saturday of each month, and so the union stewards met at 9 o'clock, and we had a regular meeting at 10 o'clock on the second Saturday of each month. So that was my role, and enjoyed it. Had good times and bad times.
Can you describe any good times come to mind?
Well, we was very active. We had picnics and things of that nature. We had a lot of Christmas parties, Halloween parties. We tried to get our members, offer them opportunity to come and enjoy some of the things that we provided for them, and meals. We would have meals catered in, and Christmas party we had for the kids. We'd show movies at a theater. We'd rent the theaters and give them popcorn and cookies and and gifts and things for Christmas. And then Easter, we'd have Easter egg hunt for the kids of our members, and so we provided what we thought was a family gathering, for our families. And usually we had a picnic. Labor Day was a big deal for organized labor, and so we always had a picnic out at Springwater Park. And before that, we met over at Heacon Park, I think we was over there for a while, and then the one on Broadway out there, we was over there at McCullough Park. We had a lot of picnics over there in the 50s. So,
Would you be willing to elaborate on some of the bad times working as a
some of the bad times that I can remember is when we're on strike, you know, out there. The bad one was in 1989. We was out, I think, 11 weeks. And out of that, it wasn't good, you know, for the community or us. You know, a lot of people were worried. BorgWarner was trying to take our benefits away for retirees. And so we give up. We finally settled the strike, and we give up 97 cents on the hour at that time to offset the cost of health care for retirees and future retirees. And so now, you know, we're back in litigation over things that happened years ago that we did not put in our contract, you know, that we had lifetime benefits after we went on strike in '89. And so had we done that, we wouldn't be in litigation today. But everybody's in a hurry to get the contract settled and go back to work, and I think all of us were, management and our 287 members. And so anyway, we didn't sign on anything like that. We just went back to work and was happy to get back to work because some of them were probably getting hungry, you know, not having enough money to survive on. So we, the union paid us $50 a week, you know, allowance, and so we signed up for that. Each week we had to go up and say we never had any work, you know, and so we had to walk picket duty out there, you know, and so usually the shifts were 4 to 8 hour shifts, you know, because we had so many employees, and so done a little of everything.
Can you describe or characterize relations between labor and management?
Well, management, when I was active in the union, most of the management came from Muncie, and they came from the bargaining unit, which, you know, we're the bargaining unit, and so our employees and supervisors came out of the bargaining unit, and to me that was a blessing because they knowed how to handle the people and what they needed to do to get the job done. And so management started changing and, you know, bringing people in from outside that were not familiar with Muncie and the people, you know, in the community, and they were a lot different. And so things started changing, and, you know, and then we as union members, we had to start changing too. And so I think both sides were stubborn over the years, and you know, it finally came. We were always threatened, you know, that BorgWarner was going to shut down and move out. And so each contract that came up, you always heard those rumors. And so now it's come to pass. So it's kind of sad.
You've talked a lot about how the union played a strong role in your work life. Is there anything else you'd like to say to sum up what the significance of being a union member to you was? I know we've touched on this quite a bit, so maybe you've got nothing more you'd like to add. But.
Well, like I said, I've been very blessed, you know, to be part of the UAW and being active in the UAW and our community action program. And so out of that, I've had opportunities that very few people has, I think, in this community, by being a delegate to the National Democratic Convention, being able to travel to Washington, D.C. each year to lobby, and also to go to Black Lake or Training Center up in Michigan. When I was the second district chairman in our CAP council, had an opportunity to go there twice a year to our training center up there, which, you know, I gained a lot of knowledge of what to do and what not to do. And so very instrumental in our second district at the time in helping our congressman get elected. And Phil Sharp and I at the time were very close friends. I helped him with some fundraisers, you know, that he held, and we were close friends. And when we'd go to Washington, D.C., he would take us underneath the tunnel, you know, the little carts underneath, and we'd go all over Washington, D.C. with him. And so my wife and I really enjoyed that. And so some of the opportunities I've had has been good ones, and there are things that that I can share, you know, with other people, but fond memories of the opportunity that I've had.
Did the CAP run the blood drive?
Do what?
Did the community action program, did it run the blood drive?
No.
What kind of things did the CAP do?
The CAP, well, it's our community action program, and we would involved in politics, you know, locally, but we would do various things for the community. You know, try to help. You know, United Way picnic. We provided money to have a United Way picnic out there over the years, and our local unions, you know, donated money into that, and so we shared, you know, that too. But we've done a lot of things, you know, for the community, I think, you know, by going to different meetings and city council meetings and things, and try to provide our input over the years of what Muncie ought to do and not do. So
you feel like you had a voice by being a part of it?
We had a voice several years ago. Yes, we did.
Do you feel like that voice is now lost?
Yes.
What do you think that does to the community?
Well, since we don't have employees, you know, and we don't have a local union anymore, the regional director come and got our charter and took it to Detroit, and they sold Springwater Park to a church. And so we don't have a place. We meet here at Forest Park School now. They provided us an opportunity to come here, and we have our monthly meetings here. We still have the retiree chapter, but, you know, like I said, we, the UAW come and took the money, or they say sold Springwater Park, put that in escrow, and took our UAW charter and went to Detroit with it. We only have here now our retiree chapter, and so that's all we have. We got pictures and things, and if you go in one of the rooms down here on the left that we meet, our meeting room, you can see some of the pictures over the years of our presidents of the UAW, and which brings a lot of history, you know, into this. As we meet in there, the flag on the wall came from our union. The UAW flag in there is from our local union. And so there's a lot of pictures available in that room, and like I said, I have a lot more at home, and I'll be willing to share them with you guys, and you can go through them and scan them and keep them as long as you want to, but I'd like to have them back because it shares a lot of memories, you know, with me especially.
Regarding your family, do you have any kids?
No.
Okay, so other than your father, were there any other family members that worked at BorgWarner?
My uncle. I had an uncle, grandfather on my mother's side that worked at BorgWarner. My grandfather, his name was Coy Flowers. He hired in the 1920s. I can't remember when that was, what year it was, but then my uncle, his name was Earl Flowers, and he was a supervisor out there over the years. And I've had cousins, a lot of cousins work out there that lived here in Muncie over the years. And my brother, he worked at, he was an electrician, worked at Dana plant down in Newcastle, and they shut the Dana plant down and moved him to Richmond, and then they shut the Richmond plant down, and so anyway, he wanted to still work, and so I got him a job at BorgWarner, and he worked there and for I think 4 years and then retired again. So he enjoyed it. That's the only realities I have though over the years.
Can you talk a little bit more about how the closing of BorgWarner is going to affect Muncie as a community?
Well, I'm sure they're going to miss the money that the employees received each week or month because it affects the community of the salary. When you talk about income, you got to buy groceries, food, provide for your family, and so to me, the whole community suffers. When you have loss of jobs, and so it's pretty sad that all the factories, I've shut down the big plants, which was the Chevrolet plant here in Muncie, and now BorgWarner. The Westinghouse was the first one to go. And so that was not a UAW plant, but AFL-CIO plant, but those were large employees, which, was 1,000 people worked out at Westinghouse, and Chevrolet had over 2,000 or 3,000 at one time. BorgWarner, over the years, in the late 50s and 60s, we had, I think, 6,000 employees at one time. And so when you talk about what it's done to the community, when the jobs are not here, then somebody has to pick the role up in the community. And I can see the mayor of Muncie now, the lady is having a lot of problems, with the tax rate and things changing. And so it's really affected our community. And reading the paper about the firemen, losing jobs, probably be policemen, and the whole community suffers because of that tax roll that's not coming in, and the income, that we don't have in our community. So yes, it affects us quite a bit.
Gerald, that's really all I have in terms of
Okay.
questions. Do you have anything you'd like to add?
No, at BorgWarner was a good place to work over the years. I've enjoyed working there. Met a lot of friends, worked around a lot of people. Like I said, we've had good times and bad times, but we're going through some bad times now with the plant shutting down and trying to take our insurance away from us. Well, they already have, but they did provide us money to offset the cost of it. And so, but the litigation in court is to take our benefits away from us. And so hopefully the good Lord will see that we're right, and I think we're right. And so hopefully, he does what's right for us, and we get our insurance back, and BorgWarner have to pay for it. We, like I said, we give up 97 cents an hour back in 1989 after the strike. And if you figure that up for each employee that worked out there over the years, that's a lot of money. And so what BorgWarner done with that, we have no idea, but we think that we've got lifetime benefits. And so we got our fingers crossed, and like I said, hope they make it right. So, about all I've got. Thank you guys. I'll go home and get all them pictures and bring it to you, and you guys can have it. They're in boxes, and got a big box there, and so you guys are welcome to look through them. And